Leaders eat last, not first. And we need to be persuaded every day that leaders eat last, not first. Because the moment when leaders begin eating fast and they eat everything, then I think we have a problem. In the book 21 Laws of Irrefutable Leadership, done by John Maxwell, where he have said that follow them, and people will follow you. Because I think it is very important for people to follow a leader, because you can be a leader and then people actually don't follow you. What do you make, or what do you become if people don't actually follow you? You become something less than a leader. And so it is very important for a leader to have followers. And John Maxwell, who has trained millions of leaders and written over 50 leadership books and has sold like over 15 million copies of the book, has written a very wonderful book called The 21 Laws of Irrefutable Leadership. And this is a 2007 publication. And this particular publication is filled with 40 years of leadership experience, observing successful leaders, whether in sports or politics or business, all in faith-led organization. And for him, he believes that there are certain laws in which guides their timeless principles. They don't change, whether they're in church or business or politics or whatever it is. These laws never change. And our business, every Thursday in this hour, we are going to cover these laws. We are going to be dealing with one after the other, because you see, everything rises, and we need to say this well. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything rises and falls based on leadership. And that is a position on which John Maxwell bases his argument. You know, and by the way, we'd highly recommend this book. Would highly recommend this book. Now, just for a summary, just to tell you what we'll be going through, we shall be dealing with 21 laws of leadership. Then there is the law of the lead, where John says that the leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. And the second law is the law of influence. The true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Then there is the third law, which is the law of process. Leadership develops daily, not in a day. The law of navigation, anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. A very important law there. Then there is the law of E.F. Hunton, which says when the reader speaks, people reason, which means when the reader does not speak, nobody reasons. The law of solid ground, which says that trust is the foundation of leadership. The law of respect, people naturally follow a leader stronger than themselves. The law of intuition, I've always liked the law of intuition, where he says the law leaders evaluate everything with a leadership bias. The law of magnetism, who you are is who you attract. The law of connection, the law of inner circle, the law of empowerment, the law of reproduction, the law of buy-in, the law of victory, the law of big more, law of what we call sacrifice, timing, explosive growth, and then finally the law of legacy. But allow me to make four key observations. And I think these are very important things that we need to share with you. Number one, about this book. Now, no one can apply all these laws of leadership perfectly. We need the grace of God to apply them. And so one may be deficient in law number one, in the law of reproduction, but at the same time become very good in the law of E.F. Hunton. Or somebody might be very good in the law of intuition, but also very poor when it comes to the law of explosive growth. So nobody, and you doesn't need to feel guilty if you do not fit or you are not able to apply all these laws perfectly. We understand that we are living in this world, and we are far from perfection. I think that is very important. But again, we also need to say each law has a consequence. If you don't do it, there will be consequences for not following it. If you follow it, then of course the consequences will be positive, and you smile yourself all the way to the bank. Okay, it is, and one of the consequences if you don't follow them is very simple, is that people will not follow you, and it will be very, very frustrating. Number three, all these laws are biblically founded. Along the line we'll be able to pick up and show you some of the biblical characters that actually applied or failed to apply these laws, and what were the consequences. And so, because I am a man of faith, I would also wish to advise you that whatever it is that you're going to share, we are going to base those truths from the Bible. Okay, and we'll be sharing biblical examples of each law. Now, these laws, on a very good note, they are practical. They're not just things that are theoretical. No, these laws are actually practical. You can be able to do them. You can be able to implement them, whether you're in church, whether in politics, or whatever it is, you can be able to implement them. And then we need to say these laws are universal. They cut across. It doesn't matter whether you're in business, doesn't matter whether you are in church, or these laws are universal, they are timeless, they are cross-cultural. Doesn't matter which culture you come from, whether you are an African or an American, whether you come from Asia, it doesn't matter, or Australia. These laws are universal, they are timeless, they are cross-cultural. Our forefathers used them or did not use them to their disadvantage or to their advantage. If we also don't use them in our own time, we shall cry and we shall be punished. These laws, we are saying, follow them, and the people are going to follow you. Ignore them, and people are going to ignore you. Seriously. And I think these are very important things that we need to understand as part of introduction of this book. Now, allow me to dive in and begin with the first law, that is called the law of the lead. Now, the law of the lead simply says that leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. In other words, what we are saying is this, that if your leadership ability is 4, for example, let's assume where I am putting my hand is a 4. If the leadership ability is 4, and then you are not able, all the people that will come to you will be 3, and they'll not be able to go below 4. Okay, so for people to follow you, then you need to raise up your leadership to maybe 6, so that the people again will raise up their leadership to that level. If you again want to attract 7 or 8, then you need to raise your leadership again, so that now again people will raise their leadership. So it's that common sense that leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. Now, we are saying your impact is affected by your ability to read. And leaders need, we really need to fight or to lift several reeds in our lives. Samson had several reeds that he was unable to handle in his life. Then there is the lead of fear, the lead of pride, the lead of deceit, and among others. You know, get this, and it is very important for us to be able to understand this, that when football loses a team, I mean match, if a football team loses a match, especially to a weak team, what happens? Do you fire the referee? Do you fire the players? Who do you fire? You fire the coach, because it all simply means that the coach did not prepare their who is this? It did not prepare the prayers were to pray successfully. Now, Saul was not able to lift some leads in his life, but again, David was able to lift leads. For David, he lifted the leads, but Saul was unable to lift the leads. No wonder he was disqualified. He was fired. Bure kabisa. And for David, it's very important, because we are saying that the law of the lead, we are saying leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. And it is very important to be, I want to come along with you and to be a lead lifter. And let's learn from David how he was able to lift the leads that were close to him. And number one is that David actually connected with God. His confidence, especially during First Samuel chapter 17, where he was fighting Goliath, was all based because he was connected by God. His motive for fighting Goliath was very simple. He had nothing to promote his ego. He has nothing to promote his personality, nothing like that. His goal was very simple. He wanted the whole nation to know that there is God in heaven. And again, he did not like it when Goliath was taunting and mocking and actually despising the living God. And his confidence came because he spent time with God. No wonder he says, the God who helped me to face bears and lions out there in the bush when they attacked my father's sheep is the same, very same one who is going to help me to be able to conquer Goliath. And it is very important as a leader to spend time to connect with God. Every time when you spend time with God, every time when you take time and spend time with God, He encourages you, He gives you strength, He gives you insights, He gives you ideas in which you are able to lead effectively. But we should say it's not going to be automatic, like when you go through challenges and dark moments that it will just go. No, it's going to be challenging. Sometimes you're gonna doubt whether God is there, but again, that connection with God is going to make you encourage, and it will help you to stay afloat even when everybody is sinking. The other thing is that David was courageous. In other words, he did what others were afraid of doing. Leadership sometimes requires making unpopular decisions. Sometimes leaders would make decisions that would make us to feel crushed, would like and leaves us lonely. You know, and look at it again in First Samuel when everybody is running away, when everybody says that giant is too big to hit. What is David doing? Actually, David is running towards him. And how is he armed? He is armed with a stone, with some stones, and of course a string. Okay, from the look of things, foolhardy. What a naive boy. He is gonna be straight. But look at him. He had something that most of us leaders don't have, and that was courage. And it is very important for us to say this, that courage is contagious. When you have courage, you spread it infects everybody. When you are fearful again, it spreads across and makes people not to move. So and then we've said number three is that David lifted the leads not only because he connected with God, not only because he was courageous, but again number four, because he was number three, because he was confident. Now the members of his family, the likes of Eliab, even the king himself, and even the enemy actually tried to underrate him, and to downplay him, and just to wonder what kind of a guy he is. For king, he said, you were simply about when he kijana mdogo. What do you know? For his brother Eliab, he actually questioned him. Why have you come here? Why are you wasting time? What kind of a venture are you engaging yourself? Don't you know that you're simply a shepherd? And even the Goliath did not even have kind words for him. He actually despised him and cast him by his God. But again, even in the midst of all these challenges, one of the things that we learn is that David still braced himself, and he said, "I am going." Actually, we read in First Samuel, he said that don't let anyone lose heart on account of this guy. I am going to kill him. I'm gonna face him. I'm gonna kill him, and the whole world will know that God does not save with his spears and whatever, but He is able to use other means. And that confident face, that kind of bracing himself, saying things that others were uncomfortable of saying, and doing things that others were afraid of doing, actually helped him to be able to lift the lead of fear, the lead of cowardice in his life. But again, number four, and I think this should be the last one, is that David kept the company of lifters. Show me who you are, and I'll tell you who you will be. Our lives are affected by two things: by the people that we spend time with, but again, by the books that we read. And it is very important for us to point out that actually David knew this principle better than anybody else. And look at the company of people that actually David stayed with. And number one, he stayed with a company of what we call lead lifters. Look at Jonathan, a beautiful, wonderful, excellent, amazing lead lifter. Saul's son, that is Jonathan, not only loved David, but he actually trusted him. He actually believed that he is going to be the next king. And actually, he helped him to ascend into power. He actually protected him from being killed by jealous Saul. And not only did he defend him from his envious dad, that is Jonathan, but again, he also helped him when he saw that there is danger. He actually helped him to run away. And we pray that God is going to help you to connect with men and women like the way David had a lead lifter. Because most often than not, what we have around us are people who actually incite us, people who discourage us, people who break our hearts, people who actually speak discouraging statements, people who want us to feel useless and nothing in our own lives. Eh, in the company of these lead drifters, what happened is that David was able to do things that he could not be able to do. He was able to defeat Goliath, something that everybody thought he cannot be able to do. Why? Because he had understood the law of the lead. It is very important for us to be able to see, to say several things. Number one, you need to spot, you need to identify your lead. Your lead can be fear. Your lead can be lack of competence. Your lead can be maybe lack of competence. Lack of information. It can be emotional immaturity. It can be anything that actually stops you from becoming a better leader. For Moses, it has everything to do with speech. The speech impediment and actually fear. And God actually helped him to overcome that challenge. I don't know, as a leader, what is your biggest lead that is actually stopping you from leading people better? But whatever it is, we want to encourage all of us, that all of us, when we begin leadership, whatever we began, whether we began it at a tender age or we are beginning it at this time in our own lives, we begin with those many leads. But we've said, if we keep the company of lead lifters, if we are competent, if we are courageous, if we connect with God, then He is going to help us to lift the leads that are actually stopping us from leading effectively. Remember what we've said today. We've said that as long as your leadership ability is low, you are only going to affect those people at that level. And you cannot be able, those who follow you cannot be able to go beyond the level at which you are. So if you are at leadership level is, say for example, number two, our hope is that at the tail end of this broadcast that we are taking, is that we shall have lifted your leadership ability a bit higher, and allow John to be your mentor, allow John to be your coach, allow John to help you along. Well, I don't want to assume that like I've already achieved, but what we are going to do here is to walk along, to share that which we are also learning. We'll be able to tell you so that you become a better leader. For those of you that have watched and followed, thank you very much. We encourage you to keep on sharing. And by the way, go to our YouTube, that is John Kimani. Inawezekana TV. And remember what you always say here, Inawezekana. This is leadership. Leaders eat last, not fast. Until next week, such a time as this, remember, Inawezekana. Thank you.